Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Field and Garden Podcast. I'm Jessi Graven from the Gardener's Workshop. Today, I have for you Lisa's recent clubhouse chat with Jonathan and Megan Leiss of Springforth Farm. During this conversation, Jonathan and Megan discuss their recent business changes, farming with young children, answer questions from the audience, and talk about their on-demand online workshop, the No-Till Microscale Flower Farm. I hope you enjoyed. Here you go.
So welcome everybody to the Flower Farmer Show. My name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm so glad you've decided to join me here today because this is going to be a great conversation. And we have a special guest today that I'm going to be chatting with, and can't wait for you guys to shoot him some questions. It's Jonathan Leiss of Springforth Farm. And I've known Jonathan and his wife Megan now for several years. They've become really good friends. And in fact, you may or may not know, he and Megan actually created a program that we've made into an online course called the No-Till Microscale Flower Farm. And it is an amazing course. It's an on demand, which means you can purchase it anytime. And it is so much more than just no-till or just micro scale. I really am kind of the mindset that what Megan and Jonathan are doing are what most people really want to do. They want to fit flower farming into their life, not have flower farming take over your life. And so we're really excited today for Jonathan to be here with us. And as I previous mentioned, Jonathan and Megan have become really good friends, and they are a young growing family. And so I just feel like they are really are doing what so many of us are focusing or trying to do. And I'm going to let Jonathan kind of just tell you an overview about them, where they're located, how big their farm is. Just kind of paint the picture for us, Jonathan.
Okay. So we're in Hurdle Mills, North Carolina, which is about halfway between Durham, North Carolina, and Danville, Virginia, which puts us right around the cold end of Zone 7, for comparison for people. And we're growing on, well, it feels like it gets smaller all the time, but we get better at it. So, you get a lot out of that. Right now, we're growing in one 30 by 96 foot hoop house, three 16 by 80 foot caterpillar tunnels, and a few beds in the field plus a small amount of perennials. So we're talking very micro. And we're growing in all of that, really focusing on the tunnels just for the reason that we sell in a very small season of the year, which is as soon as we get flowers blooming in the spring. So we're thinking maybe March 1st, the beginning of March this year, because February has been quite cold, through the end of May. And so we're really just selling for those 3 months, trying to sell as much as we can in those 3 months, and then taking a break from selling flowers for the rest of the year. We'll really take a break in the summer, and then in the fall, we'll do most of our seeding of cool flowers. Maybe 95% of the flowers we grow, we seed in the fall. And then in the winter, we'll be caring for those. This time of year, we're starting a few more things that bloom really quickly, like stock and sunflowers. And then we'll start selling again. So that's a brief overview of the farm. And then I think the other thing to say for people who don't know, our sales model is we're only doing wholesale. In fact, we had been doing wholesale since our farm started in 2014, wholesaling directly to florists. But starting this year, we're actually going to be selling directly to 2 wholesalers, and we're going to stop doing our own deliveries. So we're really looking forward to taking out a lot of the administrative work and reducing the labor of doing the deliveries this year.
Tell us, so you're selling to co-ops, not to tell us about the wholesalers you're selling to. And, the first thing that most people say to me when we bring up wholesalers is, oh my gosh, you get paid less, but tell us the pros and the cons, and kind of what led you to make this decision.
I will. The first thing I would say about that is you have to work with the person that the company that's right for you. So we're not working with conventional flower wholesalers who would definitely be paying, even less than we'll be getting, but also be needing much larger volumes. So we're not providing, 100 bunches of each color of zinnia a week, or however many a large wholesaler might need. Um, we're working with two, I say wholesaler, I mean, I'll explain, but two companies that specialize in dealing with local flowers and are aggregating, really what they are aggregating from lots of local farms. So one is a producers cooperative, of which we've been members for 4 years, I think, called Piedmont Wholesale Flowers, that there are around 12 farm members, and we gather our product and resell it to local designers and florists who are looking for local product. And that is, right now we only have a retail, a storefront, but we're hoping to start doing deliveries this year. There's a lot of logistical challenges involved in doing that sort of delivery, so we're working on that. But we're selling to designers and florists in the Chapel Hill, Durham, and Raleigh area, what's called the Triangle. The other company we'll be working with is a company called Stems out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and they're getting product from around 25 farms, I think, and selling it everywhere between Durham and Charlotte. So they're selling over a really large area. But they're also only selling local product. So I'm saying wholesaler, but it's not a massive warehouse where they're selling our product alongside imported product. It's all local product. Um, we will be getting, a little bit less. I'm thinking it could be 10 to 20% less than if we were selling direct. However, you know, it's really easy when you're starting out in business, and we've been there and done that. It's really easy to confuse gross sales with profit. And it's even easier if you're doing a small farm business where you're not paying yourself by the hour. So your labor isn't really figured in to the bookkeeping. Um, but selling to these two, even if we're getting less in gross sales, we expect to be spending so much less time that we think our profitability will go up because we'll have fewer hours, or we'll be able to take that time when we would have been doing things like writing invoices, driving around to all the florists that we were delivering to, and instead invest it in the farm, growing better product, things like that. So, which should lead us to higher profitability. So it's really taking the labor that we had been focusing on more administrative stuff and doing deliveries, and either working less on the farm and then hopefully enjoying a higher profit per hour, or just focusing that on something else that can grow our business.
That's a great explanation. I think that so often, especially as you kind of alluded to, when you're first getting in and getting started, the first couple of years, a lot of this stuff doesn't really come clear to you until, I mean, when I looked back to see how much time I was spending on the road delivering or paying someone to be on the road to deliver, that's a significant cost. And so everything has its pros and cons, and you reach a point where certain things become more important to you than they were perhaps like 4 years ago. I was just talking to somebody about a similar situation. It's like in the beginning, of course, I did that myself. But once you escalate and build your business and either decide you want to create more lifetime, or just to focus, as you mentioned, investing more time on your farm, whether that means growing more or whatever, it's definitely worth it to labor that out or to pass it on to somebody else. So, Jonathan, the big reason I wanted you to come on here is I just want us to kind of share the word about your course, which is just, I rewatched the review panel that talked about your course, and that was Andrew Medford of Growing for Market and Jenny Love and a couple other people. Jessi's been working on something with that, and I had opportunity to listen to it. And I have to agree with what Jenny Love kind of shared during her review, that this course is about no-till and it's about micro scale, but it has so much more information in there and information that's not really being shared in other places. Can you kind of give us the not the outline of what your course is, but kind of what somebody would expect to get out of your course if they took it?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that I think about it is there are three parts to the course: the no-till part, the micro scale part, and the flower farming part. And the first part of the course, the first thing people would encounter is the micro scale part. And there, part of that is thinking about how to think about your farm on a tiny, tiny area. And we feel really passionate about that because, and we want to validate people who are growing on tiny areas that might not feel like they can be thought of as a farmer. We're growing on a tiny area, but we think it's sort of the biggest area that would fit into this micro farm category. But we know people who are growing, 3 or 4 beds of flowers in their backyard that they're then selling to their neighbors. But if that person is growing professional quality flowers and um, selling them in a professional manner, taking care to make them the best flower product possible, and behaving like a business, to us that's a professional farm. And we all know how productive flowers can be. That just that small cutting garden can really function as a farm in that small community. And so that's really important to us. And so part of that section is about just some of the systems that will make that and processes that will make that small farm work um, efficiently. But the other part of it is looking at the opportunities that being a micro farm um, provides. And I think this is really what's missing in a lot of conversations, and saying, why am I doing this? So just as an example, for us, we have our farm because we want to have a homestead. I have an off-farm job, but we wanted a homestead business that would support our homestead. And um, it we got too excited about the flowers, and it got bigger than that, and it was actually taking away from our homesteading. So we had to sit down and reevaluate and say, what are we going to do so that we can meet our goal? What is our goal? Why are we farming? It's to have this homestead. And that's how we ended up with this spring only business model, because it opens up the summer for us for our vegetable garden. Um, Now we have 2 girls. Willa is 18 months and Julianne is 3. And so, that's causing us to reevaluate, why are we doing this? What do we need to change or do the same for them to have the maximum quality of life and for us to have the family time together? Um, and so really, to us, that's sort of the foundation of of the course, and also of the farm, is the goals that give us the reason for why we're farming. And we talk about how we set goals, how to evaluate goals, which we think is really important to reevaluate them periodically. So that's the first part of the course. Then we talk through our system of no-till farming. There are a lot of different no-till farmers out there doing a lot of different things, and we can't speak to what everyone is doing. So we're just sharing what works for us on our farm. But it works very well for us, and we go through that whole thing. And then at the very end, we just give uh, some highlights about what we think lead to professional flower quality. So post-harvest handling. We talk about how we start flowers and things like that, but it's just some highlights.
what one of the reasons we chose and asked Jonathan and Megan to join us here today is that even though his course is a on demand, meaning it can be purchased at any time, because you get the whole course and you can watch it. Megan and Jonathan do host a private Facebook group for their course, which is really pretty amazing because that means you can post questions and connect with them over there. But once a year, typically, Jonathan has been and Megan have been doing a live Q&A with all their students via Zoom, and that usually happens on Earth Day. Isn't that right, Jonathan? Don't haven't we always done it on Earth Day?
Yeah, we do it on, I think it's always been on Earth Day, but we'd say on or around Earth Day.
Yeah.
Um, I'm pretty sure that's April 22nd this year. And we've been doing that, since the course launched, which is pretty neat because, anyone who's taken the course can come to that. And so we get people who have watched the course or part of the course, they just started it and have a question. And we have people who've been um, been doing it, and now they've been doing it for a few years, and so they say, well, I've been doing this, and after 2 years, it's not working the way I want it to. So how can I improve on it? And it's really great just to have people who are at all stages and people who have a question and then a year later they say, well, I've been doing that for a year and now what should I try? So that's all really great.
Yeah, so Jessi was kind enough to post the link directly to the course if you want to read more about it, purchase it, whatever um, interests you. And so the cutoff for to be included in that Q&A would be like the week of the Q&A. So you don't want to wait till the very last minute. But it's really helpful. We have found through the years of doing this that for folks to get the course is 4.5 hours long. That's a bunch of sessions. As Jonathan mentioned, it's broke into into 3 areas. And you would want to like get the course and have time to watch it so you could come up with your questions. So Jonathan, do you have Megan now? Is she available to kind of add in her um, contribution? I would love to hear, um, the model of building this kind of around your family and how that's working.
Hello, I'm here. Got the girls down. Speaking of building around family.
Hi, Megan. It's so good to hear
Hi.
your voice.
Thank you. Yeah.
So tell us kind of, Jonathan has shared the overview of the course and how you guys have sold, the business model you chose was to have it assist your homestead, not overtake it, and then also for your family. So, what would you like for folks to know about what you're doing that they learn about in the course too?
Well, I would say that one of the sections in the course that is really near dear to my heart and has changed. Our strategies have changed since we made that course because we now have 2 kids. We just found out that we were pregnant with the second when we made that course, and we gave all these ideas and strategies, thoughts, suggestions for having a young child on hand, and now we have 2 on hand. And it's just a whole different ballgame with 2. Specifically speaking to the farming with family and how to make it a sustainable stream of income without it overtaking your family life is really challenging. And I think that one of the best single most strategies we've used is childcare. Like it's more important to have more childcare than it is actually to have more farm labor, more farm laborers.
Which I think goes to the point of like, we're the farmers and we're the best at doing the farm work.
Yeah.
Similarly to moving to selling to the wholesale companies or co-op is like they're doing the marketing and we get to do the farming.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really puts us doing at what we're best at. One strategy though that we have found really successful with the girls because we do have them in a lot of childcare, but we also want them to be involved as is appropriate for their age and development stage of development is they really like to help plant
Mm-hmm.
And they can help plants, especially extra plants or things we have extras of in case they don't all make it because they've been planted enthusiastically. Or we let them pick when we get a random odd color flower. It was like, oh, well, that's your special flower that you can pick as much as you want.
Yeah.
And they love being involved with things like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to lead into, is that, we've got them in 2 mornings a week of childcare, 8:30 to 12:30, and then a third day in the week, their grandmother comes up to take care of them in the morning. So that's 3 mornings a week is what we have planned going forward. And so they'll be on hand for 2 days a week, and we just plan to fit them in and try to plan our projects for those days to be a little bit more kid friendly. Like Jonathan was saying, we now plant, an extra flat of random mixed flowers that can be their flowers that they plant in the bed next to us while we're planting. It's a lot more disruption and up and down to have them on hand, but it's just so worth it to watch them learn about plants and learn about the living soil and the hard work and care that goes into it.
Megan, that's a great point. And we have so many young families coming into the cut flower industry, and very similar to you guys. Oftentimes, one of the two has an off farm job, like Jonathan does. And then somebody is at home with the kids, and it's just not even realistic to
Uh-uh.
even think about having a toddler and expect to be able to get work done. I mean,
No,
it just doesn't make sense, right?
no, not
I
at all.
mean, and it looks good on paper until the baby comes. And so I think that your model, I think that that's a great advice that you just shared is, and I do know that I've heard from other flower farming mamas talking about having childcare on the farm or going to grandma's house, and that's really a big part of it. So
Well,
Jess,
is it okay if I say one more thing about
oh
that?
sure,
I
sure.
had just had another thought. It's also, I think it's a huge part of the spirit of it is to not try to do everything by ourselves. We were just talking to their grandmother, my stepmom, and she said, "Oh my gosh, it sounds like I'm needed. I love to be needed. I'll come take care of the girls every Friday morning." And so she's getting to develop a relationship with them, a more in-depth relationship with them. She gets to have a part in being this homestead life out here. We get the help we need. And the other thing that I would just say is that having kids on hand is so humbling because I tend to have a perfectionist streak run through me, and you just cannot be a perfectionist and have toddlers helping you in the garden in any way, shape, or form. And it reminds me constantly to talk to myself when I make a mistake the way I would want to talk to my children. I would never get angry at them for breaking a flower stem or planting something in the wrong place. And so it's just one of those little things that helps me be kinder to myself too and not expect perfection, but just expect a wonderful experience.
So my first one, and then I'll bring someone up to the stage after we're done with this one, says, this is from Marion, says, I've been invited to sell flowers to a wholesale company that only sells local flowers. They require a $500 it looks like they require $500 to participate. Do the companies Jonathan sells to require payments to participate? Interested in their thoughts on this. I have several other sales channels.
That's a large buy-in. I would say, is that one time or annual? And I think that could make a difference. So the co-op that we're a part of has I think we paid $150, and that may have gone up as the co-op became more successful. Sort of membership fee. We bought our share of the co-op basically. That was $150, and then of course we pay a commission to the co-op. The co-op takes a commission on sales. The other company that we're a part of, I think, is charging around $200 a year if you're selling for the whole year, but they have some ways that you can reduce that by listing frequently. And that's their reason for that is basically to encourage people to sell flowers through their company instead of saying they're going to and then diverting them somewhere else. I think if it were a successful I think if you were buying into a co-op, a one-time fee of $500 wouldn't be totally unreasonable. If that were an every year kind of thing, that to me would seem like a lot. I would just say though, you have if she has other channels, it's just what makes sense. Like, does that make sense for her business as a growth opportunity or helping her meet her other business goals?
Mm-hmm.
And does she trust the company? You know, where that is going to be worthwhile for her.
It could also be related to the size of her business in terms of the amount that she's producing. If she's a really small farm, it may not make sense to pay that kind of a large buy-in somewhere if you're just trying to move a small amount of product. She says she has other sales opportunities. If you're a really large farm and you're trying to move a ton of product, $500, and they're a reputable company with a good model and they seem to be doing well, then yeah, a one-time buy-in fee that wouldn't be unheard of, but it is a lot.
I'm going to go ahead and bring someone up to the stage to ask their question. This is Terry.
Oh,
Hi,
good.
Terry.
I managed the technology. I'm so proud of myself. Anyway, sorry. I don't have a question, but I just have to say I'm a 60-year-old farmer. And what was just said about raising kids and perfection was beautiful. And I implore all the young moms that are listening to take it to heart. Because when you're my age and I had 4 boys with cows, turkeys, chickens, the garden, the flowers, the whole bit. And you won't be thinking about missed sales when you're my age. You'll be regretting the times you were like, no, I don't think you'll do that right. Let me just take care of that. And so I just wanted to just speak as an old person to just take that to heart, what you heard today. It was beautiful. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. That does remind me of a tool that we sometimes use to help our decision making, which is, it's like if we have some task we need to accomplish, or we want to go on a walk with the girls, and we try and just say like, well, next year or next month or in 5 years, like, what are we going to regret or what are we going to remember that like we had this nice experience going to the park, or that we didn't get these flowers planted. And it's almost always, if we think that, then we go to the park.
And then we do get the flowers planted. They just might be a little bit more root bound than we like, but they still produce. So.
Oh.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming up, Terry. I'm going to take a question now from the back channel. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I've got one from Kelly. She is wanting to know more about Springforth Farm. She says, is your farm urban or rural? What flowers do you grow? And can you tell us again what about the area, the space that you grow on?
Yeah, so we're in a rural area. I mean, our property is 13 acres, but our farm is like less than a half acre.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most of the property is woods, and then there's some meadow. But we feel really passionately that this micro scale model, and in fact, one of the strengths of micro scale farms is that they can work in urban and suburban environments. And honestly, like, we need to be growing things in those urban and suburban spaces as a society, as a planet. Like we need that lawn to be productive space. So where you're able to, with your zoning and things like that, like, we really feel strongly that people can and should use that space to make professional farms or gardens. We're growing on about 5,000 square feet of covered space. I think it's one 30 by 96 foot hoop house, 3 16 by 80 foot hoop houses, a few field beds, and some field perennials. And we're growing in all that covered space because we're selling flowers in the spring from February or March through the end of May, which is the time for us of the highest demand, the highest profit, the highest value flowers. So we're pretty much growing the flowers or types of flowers that are profiled in Lisa's book, Cool Flowers, plus a few perennials and sunflowers. Sunflowers work because, they produce in such a short period of time.
Also, just to add into that, we're growing in about 5,000 square feet translates to us to about 24 permanent raised beds. So we don't till them down every year. We keep them permanently raised up. And they're about 30 inches wide and 80 feet long, just to give you a little bit more of a perspective. If someone said to me 5,000 square feet back, well, I don't know what that is, but I know that we've got 24 permanent raised beds around 80 feet long. So.
And then the one kind of flower that we're able to grow that's, of course, doesn't work in the outdoor growing cool flowers model is anemones and ranunculus, which are a really important crop for us with the early sales, especially during the wedding season.
And when we mention tunnels, just to clarify, they are not heated. They're just covered in the plastic and heated by the sun. So.
I do have one other question here on the back channel. It is from someone who is just getting started. It says, I'm embarking on becoming a flower farmer. Right now I have bare land with a garage. We haven't dug a well yet. Has anyone used storage tanks with drip lines? Is that possible? I don't know if maybe you guys can outline what you're using, and maybe that would be helpful to them as well.
First of all, that's really exciting to be starting like that, and it's great to have that bare space and to have so much room for imagination.
I like to call it the blank canvas.
We're irrigating with drip tape off a well, but using a cistern is absolutely possible. You would need to talk to your irrigation supplier about whether you could do it just off of gravity or whether you would need some sort of pump to pump out of the cistern to boost the pressure. It would probably be a fairly small pump to make that work, but the irrigation supplier would be able to answer all of those questions. But it absolutely can be done because we know farmers who've done that had wells that weren't productive enough, and so they would basically run the well 24/7 to fill up a 10,000 gallon cistern or something so that they could irrigate off of that.
Thank you so much, Jessi, and Megan and Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I feel like you've really kind of given people a peek into the way that you all are developing and running your business, and that's what you offer in the course. And I think there's just so many takeaways from the course, no matter, even if you aren't a micro scale or if you're not a no-till farmer, there is benefit. And I mean, y'all, simple things like how to fold and store silage tarps. If you've never done a silage tarp, you might not quite understand that, right? And Megan, and you're still together, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, speaking of some of the takeaways from the course that aren't necessarily related to exactly how you're farming I just want to circle back around to the whole little session that we did on the retreat. That retreat continues to play such a vital role in our married life, our family life, our farming life. That retreat, the process of that, and also we did a whole session on making large decisions, and we used this do-don't method where you, for a week, just put a column on do whatever you're going to do, or don't do whatever you're going to do, or whatever it is that you're deciding, and you just fill in the columns as it comes to your mind, and then look at it after your period of time. And that was how, using both of those resources, and especially the retreat, was how we kind of came to this new step in our direction of selling to two wholesalers, to them accessing the florists, and we sell to them. So that can be translatable into any size business.
Jonathan we didn't even mention that tell them what the retreat is right quick. We didn't talk about that at all.
That's one of the most important tools that we have for evaluating our goals. And I completely agree, like no matter what scale your farm is at, you should have goals before you're taking actions that you can evaluate so you know whether they're working or not. And the retreat, which we do every year, is the place where we look at our goals. They can be anything from profitability goals to sales goals, quality of life goals, crop goals, just any. We have lots of goals related to the children. So just family life, anything like that. And maybe you'd like to share just how the retreat works.
Yeah, also alongside that, it is goal oriented, but it's also just a set aside time. We find childcare. We try to go overnight. Used to be 2 or 3 days we would go, but then with kids, we can manage one about 24-hour period. And just to have this set aside sacred time, uninterrupted, scrounging for meal in the refrigerator, so we're not cooking meals for the family. Just the set aside time to really say, well, I really struggled with that last year. Like, this really didn't work for me. Like, we only had an employee 8 hours a week, and it about killed us. So this year we have an employee 16 hours a week. That was a change that came directly out of the space for us to sort of reflect and say, I like, this feels not manageable with 2 kids in the family and our huge homestead garden and the business to only have an employee X number of hours. We need to bump it up. Let's try that next year. So it's about goal setting, but it's, and sort of evaluating how we're doing on those and if those goals are even relevant anymore. But it's also just about creating the time and the space without interruption, without outside distraction. We turn our phones off, all of that jazz, where we can just really heart to heart talk about how things are going and how we're feeling about it. And a lot of the direction we're heading with selling to these 2 wholesalers has come out of those conversations of feeling just a little overwhelmed and burned out, and feeling like we had not enough product for too many people that wanted it, and so we needed to sort of mainstream to make it easier with our family.
That's great. I think all of that really helped. Check out their course at thegardenersworkshop.com, or you can follow the link. I just think it's a great opportunity. We're heading into the season for most of us, and then you would have that live Q&A with Megan and Jonathan. I just want to thank Jonathan and Megan for coming and joining with us here today.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we really look forward to the Q&A every year as well. It really gives us a lot of things to think about, seeing what other people are doing and asking about. So we really look forward to that, and hope that anyone who signs up for the course will be able to participate.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks again to Jonathan and Megan for joining us today. And thank you, Lisa, for hosting this chat. Thanks to everybody in the audience and those who asked questions today. Thanks again for everyone joining us here today. And we hope to talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.
Okay, welcome back. If you'd like to know more about Jonathan and Megan's on-demand online workshop called the No-Till Micro-Scale Flower Farm, we have more details available on our website. Just go to thegardenersworkshop.com and click on the online courses, then on-demand workshops, and you'll find it there. I'll also put a direct link to it here in the show notes. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for joining me here for another episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. I'm Jessi Graven with the Gardener's Workshop, and I hope you have a great day.